Hey guys, Mr. Mimikyu here, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing Triple Water in the Fossil Cup. This team consists of Pelipper in the lead, Jellicent as a save swap, and Swampert as a closer. Pelipper's moveset is Wing Attack, Weather Ball, and Hurricane. Jellicent's moveset is Hex, Bubble Beam, and Shadow Ball, and Swampert's moveset is Mud Shot, Hydro Cannon, and Earthquake. Basically, this team outright has some pretty good matchups, but it also has some scary ones, such as Ferrothorn, because Ferrothorn tends to beat my entire team and even has access to Thunder for Pelipper. But other than that, it's a very good team. But anyways, let's get on to PB Poke for the rankings. Taking a look at the rankings, the coverage is excellent, however the bulk is downright meh. The safety is good, and the consistency is kinda meh as well. The main problem with this team is that it has below average bulk, mainly because Swampert isn't as tanky as it is in the Great League compared to the Ultra League. And Pelipper is alright, but the big problem is that with both Swampert and Pelipper, they tend to have a 4 times weakness. For Pelipper's case, it's electric, while Swampert, it's grass. And Jellicent also has problems too, mainly because of its Ghost and Dark weakness. But enough chit chat, let's get on to the matches. Our first match is where we got Pelipper into Melmetal. Now, basically Melmetal is kind of a core breaker, to be honest, because like most of the time you usually would expect the Rock Slide, but in this case Thunderbolt if they were willing to run it, but I tried to catch and I failed to do so, and then they throw the superpower and swap into Pelipper of their own. I got a little cocky because I thought I was going to live the Weather Ball, but instead I didn't, which is kinda surprising, and then I decided to bring back in my own Pelipper rather than waiting the switch clock out like I should. Like, I don't understand why I didn't. That was basically my fault, and I don't know if they got a sneak in, but I think they might have, so I decided to bait them with a Weather Ball and then try to catch the Hurricane and failed to do so. So I shielded, and it ends up becoming another Weather Ball bait. Like, oh my goodness, what is with this thing baiting with this Weather Balls? So I decided to throw the Shadow Ball, and they swapped into Whiscash, which, to be fair, I wasn't expecting it to do that though. Like, yeah, and it's like, really frustrates me, to be honest. Like, you know, like, Whiscash isn't much of a core breaker compared to like Swampert, because like, you know, Swampert is like a very meta relevancy in PvP, and I decided to throw the Weather Ball last minute and I regret doing it, and they bring back in their own Pelipper thinking, I'm probably going to kill it. Not quite, and of course they farmed me down. My only win con is for me to not shield, but there's no way I'm going to win because they had a superpower loaded and I basically lose the match. I thought I was going to live, but I didn't. Moving on to the next match, we got a Pelipper lead into Ferrothorn. Now basically you would want to count 5 bullet seeds though, so that you would make sure that they throw the Thunder. This is definitely enough for a Thunder, and it ends up becoming a Power Whip. I decided to throw in the Weather Ball because they bait me, and I decided to return back with a bait, but instead they didn't shield, which is kind of shocking by my part, and I decided to throw in the second Weather Ball, basically to catch, hopefully, the Thunder on Swampert. I'm expecting a Thunder, and I was right, and it did a lot of damage despite me resisting it, and now we can just safely shield and farm down the Ferrothorn, and then, yeah, that's what I decided to do, farm it down. Now, the problem is that because we have a shield disadvantage, big shield disadvantage at that matter, we decided to throw in Hydro Cannon as they sneak a Mud Shot through, which is not good. They shield once, and they shield twice. Yeah, they shielded 2 times. So I bring in Jellicent as opposed to Pelipper because I didn't want to risk them hitting me with a Blizzard, because that is what you commonly would see on Whiscash in the Great League, in like certain restricted cups like the Remix, the Retro, the Fossil, you name it. It's like, wow. It's not often you would see it though, but it is what it is, and their last Pokemon happens to be Lucario, which I can just easily Shadow Ball for the KO, and I win. Moving on to the third match, we got Pelipper into Politoed. Now, sometimes Politoed leads can generally be scary because you don't know if they're going to pack Earthquake or Blizzard. I decided to shield just in case it was a Blizzard because it was enough for the Blizzard, and they ended up baiting me with a Weather Ball, which is kind of unfortunate. So basically I decided to return back with a bait, and you know what, I decided to not shield just in case, and it happens to be a weather ball, which is nice, and then they throw it right away, which means it's another weather ball, which we can safely take. I decided to throw the hurricane, and they did a nice strategic catch on the Mawile. It did like over half, which is kind of surprising, even though like Mawile's resistance to flying because of its steel typing, which is kind of not surprising, but you know, we can just safely mud shot down and then leave with an earthquake for the Politoed, which they decided to bring it back in, and I decided to throw the earthquake in. Guess what? It takes it out, and all they have left is a Polyrath. I ain't baiting here. I'm going straight for the earthquake and hoping they don't shield, which they don't, because their win con was for me to bait, and they surrendered. Moving on to the next match, we got a Galarian Stunfisk lead. Now, Galarian Stunfisk is not much you would see though in the Fossil Cup because of the amount of water types there. I decided to no shield because we know we can survive a Rock Slide, and I know we're doing resisted damage with Wing Attack, but that's okay because we can just fire back with Weather Ball. The first one took it over half, and then the second one barely KO'd, but 2 Wing Attacks was just enough to kill it though. They decided to bring in Swampert, and I know for a fact that I can't just switch because we decided to stay in, throw the Weather Ball, which bring it down to yellow, and they decided to throw right away, and you know, Pelipper has done its job. We don't need to keep it in there. I don't know why I was switching out, but I didn't switch, so I decided to bring in my own Swampert, and they go for a Hydro Cannon. Does like over half to me. Like, holy crow. Like you gotta understand though about Hydro Cannon spamming this, because like it makes a Swampert pretty spammy, you know. I decided to shield in case it was an Earthquake, which it was a Hydro Cannon. I decided to no shield, or did I shield? Yeah, I double shield, thinking it was an Earthquake, but instead it was the Hydro Cannon, which is kind of unfortunate how they double baited me, and I decided to throw in the Body Slam, and their last Pokemon happens to be Lucario. I decided to Bubble Beam because there's no reason to go for a Shadow Ball here, which thankfully they shielded because they tried to go for a Shadow Ball of their own, which they couldn't, so I decided to fire off my own Shadow Ball and KO the Lucario. Moving on to the next match, we got a Jellicent lead. Now, basically, Jellicent is kind of a problem. Like, I can't just go into my own because then we're doing super effective with each other, and it would be basically a bait game and all that stuff. So I decided to let it go, and it happens to be a Shadow Ball, and I decided to return back that big damage with a Hurricane, which they decided to swap into a Escavalier. We build up some energy, we swap into Jellicent, and I'm thinking we can survive a Drill Run, but it ends up becoming an Acid Spray. Like, why would you run an Acid Spray on a Escavalier? So basically, because they threw the Acid Spray, I had the shield though to keep my Jellicent healthy and alive. So I decided to throw the Bubble Beam, hoping they shield, which they do. So I decided to throw in the Shadow Ball and hoping they don't double shield, which they don't, and that's fine with me. Waiting out their switch clock, they bring back in the Jellicent, and to be fair, I kind of could have just thrown the Weather Ball with Pelipper, but instead I decided to play it safe. They have a Lucario, and basically this is game over for them. Like, you know, like, there's no way they're going to make it to a Shadow Ball. Like, we can just go double Hydro Cannon and get the last shield, and then KO with the second. You know, it's all fun and games, and then we can just mud shut down the Jellicent for the KO. Moving on to the next match, we got a Ferrothorn lead. Like, this is the second time we've seen Ferrothorn, and you know how it is. This time I decided to no shield to call the Power Whip, which thankfully I did, you know. Otherwise then it would have done big damage. I decided to throw the Weather Ball just to be safe, because, you know, it is what it is. I decided to shield. I know it sounds stupid to shield, but I wanted to like do big damage, and they caught the Hurricane on the Jellicent, which is unfortunate for me, but that's okay. We can just try to farm up to some extra energy. They decide to save their energy and throw the Shadow Ball at my Swampert, which does big damage, but at the same time, you know, I wanted to go for an Earthquake, but I didn't want to waste all that energy for nothing though, because that would be just a stupid idea to do so, waste all that energy with the Earthquake. They decided to bring back in the Ferrothorn. I go for an Earthquake, and you know what they did? That's right, they shield it. It's just so very mad. I decided to shield myself with Jellicent, and I just don't know why I couldn't have like done a better job. And basically I hope I got CMP with Pelipper, and the Weather Ball doesn't quite KO, but thank goodness it was CMP, or else that would have like been unfortunate, because then like Jellicent would have been KO'd by the Power Whip. And here I made the most stupidest mistake. I should have thrown the Bubble Beam, because this Earthquake will bring me down to red to a point where they can just go for a Hydro Cannon. And I know for a fact that I couldn't make it to the... Well, I could make it to the Shadow Ball, but I know I couldn't make it to do it against the Ferrothorn, but that's okay, because you can't win them all though. Moving on to the next match, we got Pelipper into Araquanid. Now this is a very good leave. They use an Infestation, they swap into Politoed, which, to be honest, like, why would you go into Politoed? Like, I understand, like, it is a good matchup for you. I decided to swap into Jellicent, hoping we caught the Blizzard, but it ends up becoming a Weather Ball, which is unfortunate, and they know for a fact they probably don't, because they use their Elite Charge CM to get Earthquake, which, to be honest, like, I get that though, because like usually whenever you see Politoed, you see the Earthquake because they use their Elite Charge TM. Usually I expect the Blizzard though because of Altaria, but instead, because there's no Dragon types in this cup and it's just Water, Rock, and Steel, there's no Altaria. So they decided to bring back in the Araquanid. They decided to throw the Bubble Beam, which I'm like thinking, why couldn't you just throw in the Bug Buzz? Like, you know, you could have like KO'd me with Bug Buzz, and instead you decided to give me extra farm with Hex, and they decided to throw in the Bubble Beam, or no, wait, I threw in the Bubble Beam, and I'm surprised they haven't even thrown, but I decided to go into Pelipper, and they got a Magnezone. Now, those wing attacks are just tickling it. There's no reason to go for the Hurricane. We can just spam out Weather Ball after Weather Ball after Weather Ball. We get their last shield, which is nice, and there's no way they were gonna like Mirror Shot us down, because they knew that if they used Mirror Shot, I would have used a shield. Moving on to the next match, we got Jellicent lead. Now, we all know how it plays out, because, you know, you count to 5 to know that they're at the Shadow Ball, because if you count 4, they're just going to throw the Bubble Beam. And sometimes some Jellicents tend to run Ice Beam, but in this case, I decided to throw in the Weather Ball, hoping they shield, which they do, and you know what? Let's see if we can survive a Bubble Beam. And sure enough, we did, and because of that, we can just safely go for a Hurricane and basically go into our own Jellicent, and basically, yeah, this isn't the Shadow Ball. I counted, and it ends up becoming a Bubble Beam, which took them out. They have Registeel, and we all know what we're going to be doing. We're just going to go for Shadow Ball after Shadow Ball. I know we can shield one Zap Cannon, which we are going to do. Actually, you know what? We decided to do it, and basically, I know it was silly for me to overfarm, but that's okay. You know, it is what it is. You know, that's how it's supposed to be like. You know, we catch the Zap Cannon onto Pelipper, and I was like, holy crap, that was just epic. Oh, that was awesome. Now we can decide to bring in Swampert. We go for the Hydro Cannon to basically take down the Registeel, and all they have left is an Escavalier. There's no way they're going to win this, you know. We can just spam Hydro Cannon after they throw in the Drill Run, which they're going to. But you know what? Let's decide to let it go, because, you know, we're going to trust in Jellicent, and they quit. Moving on to the next match, we got a Pelipper mirror match. Now, basically with Pelipper mirror matches, they tend to be kind of dangerous, because you don't know if they're going to bait you or hit you hard with a Hurricane. I decided to throw in the Weather Ball, and they shielded, and I managed to get in a Sneak, just like how they got the Sneak when I threw in my Weather Ball, which is kind of surprising. I decided to throw in the Hurricane to rock it like one, and guess what? They double shielded, which is kind of surprising. I bring in Jellicent, you know, like, we are pretty bulky, but I know the Hurricane does so much damage, it's like, ouch. And I know for a fact they're nowhere near a Hurricane. We decided to let the Weather Ball go. I know it sounds silly for me to use Shadow Ball, but that's okay. We can just kill it with this range. They got a Registeel, and basically we're going to throw in the Shadow Ball and do some good damage with it, and I went down due to lock-on. But that's okay. We decided to wait out our switch clock. We decided to go into Swampert. You know, we can tank one Focus Blast, because, you know, I'm not too worried about it. And instead, they decided to throw in the Zap Cannon. That is pretty surprising. And what's even more surprising is that I went for a Hydro Cannon rather than an Earthquake. And you know what? Let's be cocky and throw the Pelipper in to let it die from the Zap Cannon. After all, that was pretty hilarious. They bring in Lucario, and you know what this means, baby? Earthquake. Boom! That was awesome. Moving on to the next match, we got Ferrothorn in the lead. Now, basically, you know what? No more fooling around. Let's decide we're going to shield the right move. And that's what we're going to do. We shield last second, and it ends up becoming a Thunder. Because otherwise, then we would have died, and then I would have surrendered like I did in one match, which isn't shown in this preview. But that's fine, because we can just go for a Hurricane after we baited them with Weather Ball and secure the KO. They bring in a Escavalier, and basically, like, we could just spam Weather Ball. There's no reason to go for the Hurricane when both moves hit for neutral because of a Escavalier's bug and Steel typing. Flying takes super effective from bug while Steel resists, or something like that. I don't know. But they have a Lucario in the back. This game is just pretty much over. I was going to go into Swampert, but I decided to go into Jellicent just for the lulz. And you know what? Let's no-shield this Shadow Ball because I'm pretty sure we survive, which we barely do. And we fire back with a Shadow Ball for the KO, and that's a good game. Moving on to the last, final, and bonus match, we got a Swampert lead. Now, basically, you can just stay in. They throw in a Alolan Graveler. I was going to throw in the Weather Ball, but instead I decided to go into Swampert here. Now, basically, unlike Alolan Graveler does have access to Stone Edge, whereas Alolan Golem does too. But instead, Alolan Graveler tends to have a bit more bulk than its evolution, and basically we could just spam Hydro Cannon. There's no reason to go for the Earthquake, especially when it's double super effective, and why would we want to waste all that energy? They bring in Ferrothorn, they killed us with Bullet Seed, which is fine because we can just safely go back into Pelipper, but instead I decided to go into Jellicent, which is kind of silly, but you know, I know for a fact that we couldn't just stay in with Pelipper because of Thunder. And you know what, let's go for the double Bubble Beam. They shielded the first, and they swap in the Swampert. I throw in the Shadow Ball, hoping it's no shielded. And I decided to bring in Pelipper and decided to go for a Weather Ball, which they shielded because they want to get off their move, which I guarantee it's probably going to be Sludge Wave, but it ends up becoming a Hydro Cannon. But since we know that the second one's a Hydro Cannon, there's no reason to shield. And basically we can just farm them all the way down and then secure the KO with a Hurricane on the Ferrothorn, and that is good game. Boom! Nailed it. All in all, I had a blast with this team though. The problem is that whenever I see a Ferrothorn lead and basically like I count to 5 Bullet Seeds, makes it kind of problematic though, because you don't know if they're going to bait you with a Power Whip or hit you really hard with a Thunder if you are the Pelipper. And if you're leading with Swampert, then you better consider yourself screwed because those Power Whips sure do big damage, and even though Bullet Seeds damage output isn't great, it still hurts a lot though, especially for that double weakness you have to grass though. But other than that, this team will do just fine to help you climb up, and I guarantee it was a lot of fun to use.